5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, everybody, we're live here on the MTFU Longevity Podcast. This is so much fun because you know what? All the guys I talk to, it's like opening up a muscle builder magazine from 1978 or even the 80s or the 90s. And I get to talk to all these guys. And the friend I'm talking to now, people see his success now and they say, oh, isn't it so fantastic? But of course, they haven't seen the 30 plus years of grind that many of us have witnessed. So we're going to talk about that. Our friend Kenny Wallach is here. He is
Hi, everybody.
Pretty much, you know, from what I know, when we hear the term the man, watch out for the man, you don't want to deal with the man. That's usually not a good thing. But when you talk about the man as far as posing instruction in the world of physique, that would be Kenny Wallach. He's the guy that everybody, you know, we were just talking about how hard it is to become the best in the world at anything. And this guy has done that. And the importance of posing and how we see people work so hard on their physiques. And, you know, they oftentimes they go on stage, it's almost like they forgot everything, why they're doing what they're doing. But Kenny really makes the difference in people getting, well, we're going to talk about it. I will end with this, and then I promise everybody I won't talk that much. But all the people I've talked to over the years, you know, well over 100 IFBB pros, NPC and AAU amateurs, because before NPC, it was AAU. And around 1982, that's when it amalgamated. It changed over, and then the NPC was the go-to as far as the national championships. But I'm going to tell you something. Everybody I have talked to, when you want to talk about Joe Weider, you hear good and bad, but everybody ultimately has something. There might be idiosyncrasies. They have problems with Joe Weider, but it wasn't the nutrition, it wasn't the marketing, it wasn't the magazines, it wasn't the training, it wasn't the exercise apparatus that he developed. They all said that Joe was fantastic. Even guys like Samir Banu, who are already really good posers, he knew how to have these guys either supinate their arm or twist their hips or a little tiny angle, and all of a sudden the physique would explode like it never did. And this is what Kenny does. And it's not just looking at a person. Kenny understands the structure, the anatomy, the function of the human body. There's a lot of work. Unfortunately, people see the surface. It's like Sherlock Holmes says, you see, but you do not observe. So Kenny can observe and give you a perspective that you do not have. So all I'm saying, when you're done here, you will be listening to this, you will be energized, even on a Friday night. You'll put the pizza down in the beer and you'll want to go work out. And I promise you all these things will happen. Kenny, thanks for being here, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike. It's a real pleasure to be here.
I love to see people who are successful. When you're younger, you get envious, but when you're older, you realize, you know what? The atmosphere and environment is still fertile enough that if you plug yourself in like the successful ones do, you too can be successful. That's why I like to see that. Tell us how you started training and all that. You're going to be 55 soon, like you just said. And since I did that to you, I'll tell everyone I am 56. You started when, Ken?
Okay, well, my first competition was back in 1982. I was a junior in high school, and basically it was NPC. It was an NPC show. My very first show was NPC. And prior to that, I got introduced to training, bodybuilding magazines. And the first time I ever seen a bodybuilder, I've ever seen a bodybuilding magazine, that was it. Game over. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And, it just became, it was just me. So I started working out. I saw the bodybuilding magazines, went on my first, and then what happened was I was a student of the posing from day one. The first time I saw a magazine at the age of 15, I just studied and studied. It just took me over. And
Hey, Ken, since so few kids would do that, what do you think drew you into that?
I don't know. When I was a child, like when I saw Rocky in 1976, that was the first time I actually saw muscles, and it just drove me. And I was, a 10-year-old then, and it just took me over. And my grandfather back then, when I was living in the Bronx, we'd always watch Popeye together. He'd always make me feel his muscle, and it just was part of me ever since I was a child. And it just kind of came all through into the first time I saw a magazine. It almost came full circle to where I just knew it was going to be what I was going to do. It just was so crazy.
It made sense.
So what happened was, to make a long story short, because I was and my very first contest that I ever went to was just like a month, 2 months, 3 months before my first show. It was August of 1982. I went to the AAU Mr. America.
Wow.
As my very, very first show ever.
Was that Massachusetts?
Worcester.
You know who was in that? Cheech was in that. Frank Valentine.
Really? Wow.
That was won by Rufus Howard, right?
Yes. And you know, it was crazy. Back then, when they did the overall for that, they didn't announce the winner in front of everybody. They did the pose down, they closed the curtain, and then when they announced the overall, Rufus Howard was doing a shot. When they opened up the curtain, he was the only one off stage.
That's how they did it.
It was sick. And at 16 years old, I mean, forget it. I mean,
that was the first show you went to?
Ever seen, ever went to, anything.
That's a high bar, man.
Oh my God. So, I saw Mike Sable, Rupert Howes, Tom Kershke. I met Serge Bray. I got his autograph.
Wow.
Cal Scalick.
Yes.
Cal Scalick, I got his autograph. Those
Wow.
are the days we got autographs on the program.
Yeah.
And then from then it was done. So then, to make a long story short, after when I was a teenager, I did my routine. I posed. A lot of the people who went to the gyms at the local gym, okay, back then it was Holistic in North Haven.
Yeah.
People were asking me to help them with their routine. So, and this was at the age of 18, like the spring after my first competition.
Wow.
So I'm 18 years old, helping the grown-ups do routines and stuff.
That early, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it just kept snowballing. And then as I competed more, people saw me do my thing.
Right.
So more people were asking. So it became this big kind of local word of mouth thing. And it just was nonstop ever since 1983.
You're competing. I used to judge when the Montanaris used to have the Golds Classic at the Schubert. You remember those days? Those were great days, and those were big shows. And I remember when
you judged me at the Schubert.
Oh yeah, no. In fact, I was just going to mention you won your class, and it was very close for the overall. And I remember how electrified with happiness you were. Was that one of your most happy moments?
Yes.
That you could think of, like when you think of throughout your life, you don't have too many moments like that.
Yes, that was definitely one of them. Yes.
Yeah, you were right. You nailed it that night, and that of course the pictures down there at Powerhouse and all that. Was that the end of your compete? How long did you competing? What span was that from age 16 to what?
That was 96. That was from 1982, and then I went into 96. But I didn't really compete that much once it was later, because I had my family, and I started family early. Then I went back and I competed, I think in like 06 or something like that, just as a master. I did pretty well. I won my class in a few shows, but it wasn't the same, only because there's so many more responsibilities, my children. And so, but I mean, I did all right, but 96 was definitely, my best year. And I stopped after that because I didn't really want to pursue a career, because back then, I was a lightweight and they didn't have 202s back then. They didn't have 12s. It was just lightweight, and if you're pro, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, there weren't the same opportunities. So now you built like a real robust business now. I remember a few years ago when I was training with Evan, I got in shape. I'm not looking to compete, but I wanted to learn how to present better. And I approached you, and you said, "Call my girl." I couldn't get in. You were backed up for which is a good thing, but you're very, very in demand, so you have high success. But I want to talk about certain things, and some of the things you picked up on is, in fact, when you get a client who, let's say, they're tremendously developed, yet they have a hard time presenting themselves even remotely to their best advantage. Is that sometimes a matter of self-awareness, would you say?
I think a lot of it, if let's say like they don't work with me or something like that, and they do it on their own or whatever. The thing is, I think the self-awareness thing, but mostly, their direct mindset is on so many other things. You know what I mean?
Right.
preparation, the training, the rest, so there's so many areas where it's a little bit different for me because quite frankly, this is all I think about.
Yeah, I know that. Right.
Okay. And this is, I've been studying the game since I was a child. I've studied, I know the kinesiology of, the body parts and what makes this or what that, and then I'm aware of each other's genetics.
Right.
And a lot of the times, I'll get people who see someone else do a shot and automatically think that they want to do that shot. But because of the two separate genetics, there's not a self-awareness kind of a lot of, well, maybe that doesn't look as good as me, but they don't care because basically that it looks good on that person. So a lot of times they don't see that.
Ken, tell me if this is a bad analogy. The lady who cuts my hair, so I was talking to her, and she said sometimes a person will come in with a picture of, I don't know, Michelle Pfeiffer and her hair, but this lady has the wrong type of hair, not enough hair, or whatever it might be, and it just can't happen. Is that kind of the same with people wanting to do like a Sergio hands overhead pose, or they want to pose like such and such? Is that the same thing, and it comes down to genetics?
A lot of it, I think. I think yes, genetics, yes, development, yes. Yeah.
But ultimately they trust you and they go in another direction because they have to, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll point stuff out to them, and I'll let people know that this kind of doesn't work,
right,
for you. Here's something else that would, be comparable that would work with you. I'm always going to work. I never really shut anybody down because there's no need to be discouraging. What you can do is put them in a similar direction of it and explain why. As long as you explain why and kind of let them see it with you, then they're like, okay, I got it. Cool, let's do it.
Ken, you're universally held in very high regard. And that's, you're nice. People in business will work with you. The number one thing is they want it because they like you or whatever you may do, wherever you may be. That's the number one. But see, one of the good things about you versus maybe some others is you understand structure, anatomy, and function of the human body, of the musculoskeletal system. Like you understand the brachialis helps give you a bigger peak, a better peak, and turning an arm, twisting the hips. Does that come into play quite a bit? Understanding, mechanics and structure and anatomy.
It all does. It's all about mechanics.
It is.
Opposing is about mechanics. So yes, it's the anatomy, again, kinesiology, parts of stuff, and what makes pop this, what makes that pop, or whatever. But I think most importantly for me, knowing that it's about seeing what works and what doesn't work, seeing what is properly structured, the aesthetics, the power, the finesse, it all comes into play when I'm looking at somebody, you see. And then once I see that, then I could start applying the other stuff mechanically or blah, blah, blah,
What if you get somebody, the range of motion is terrible? Would you suggest rolfing or stretching or deep tissue massage, anything like that to improve the functions?
It really depends on the person. Some people, I worked with people who had frozen shoulder or, stuff like that, where they just couldn't lift up their, their elbow or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, and, you get a little subscapular work in or whatever, and see if we could open up the lats a little bit more. But it has to be because the mechanics aren't doing the job, aren't working. Right. It's not a muscle. A lot of times I can't connect with it mentally, so I can't open it up or blah, blah, when I do things, everything is taught by mechanics. So if there's something there and it's not helping and they go get body work done and it's not working, well, guess what? We take the pose in a different direction.
It's interesting because I watch you in another podcast and you made that point because I was going to ask you, what is wrong with the mind-muscle connection? Like you see a guy, and they have great lats, nothing happens. They'll hit it, they don't come out, or, their arm is, front of a bicep, they keep their arm down instead of up, all that. But you're really saying it's more a matter of mechanics and getting the scapula to come out versus, feeling it.
Absolutely.
You found that
Absolutely.
as a constant with most people.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Well, so how would you, for instance, somebody comes and they just can't get the scapula to spread out and get the lats out. How would you help them activate that?
I have so many techniques in my bag for
Person to person
situation. For
right.
each situation. Like I could have somebody, like you said, come in, they can't open up. I could probably have about 8 or 10 different ways to approach it.
Right.
But that's because that's all accumulated knowledge that I've acquired throughout the years.
Right.
And experiences with different people. So I reach into those bag of tricks. If one doesn't work, 2, we'll try 2. If that, 3, or so on and so forth. So, there's like they said, there's like how many ways to skin a cat or whatever. Well, this is the same thing for me. If there's not one way to work, we go another direction, and I just make it happen somehow.
Kenny, as far as the compulsory poses, there's a million other different poses. The compulsory poses. Which one do you think? I have an idea in my head, but which one do you think is the hardest one? I won't say look good in, but to look complete in.
To look complete.
The hardest one, to have everything covered from head to toe.
Well, let's just say, you got somebody to look complete in. That's a really good question. It really depends. I mean, I got to say, Mike, if somebody's hitting the pose correctly, you could look good in every single, look complete in every pose. Okay.
See, that's why people hire you, Ken, right there. Are you good at, listen, because I was going to say front double bicep or front lat spread. It is for me, but that may not be so. But let me ask you, let's say you have weak calves. I mean, obviously from side shots, you're not really, you could hide, it's not a big problem. But is there a way to, I don't want to say hide, but compensate for that in a front pose or even a back pose?
Well, the thing is, let's say if you do have somebody with small calves, okay, what you want to try to do, and I see this all the time, you kind of want to keep the heel lower, okay?
Lower.
Because a lot of times when it goes to a full contraction, a lot of times it'll contract inward.
Right. Really? Wow.
Well, yeah, right, because it bunches up.
Right.
So if you go half of the lift, half the calf lift, and try to focus on spreading the calf,
right,
then you're going to have an appearance of a wider calf, not so much bunched up or anything like that, but a wider spread. That
makes sense. This question is,
you have a wide, what's that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
When you have a wider spread in the calf, it can striate.
Right.
Okay, when you're lifting up and you got a small calf, it's going to ball up.
Right, absolutely.
And chances are, you may have a longer soleus or whatever. It depends on a high calf or undeveloped calves. My suggestion is just lift halfway up, let that thing spread out, and just let it run.
It's good advice. I saw on another, I've known you for a long time. I don't get to talk to you a lot, but the last picture I took with you about 10 weeks ago, I was still in shape. Somebody saw it. They said, "Hey, man, what happened to you?" Because I've been locked down. It's okay. You can't get into shape unless you're out of shape. Hey, Ken, I saw that you said the other young guy, you just did a podcast June 1st. Nice kid. Got his name. Yes. And you said something on there. You said, listen, you don't do people's diet. You don't do their training. Right? No. You don't. And that's good because you do what you do and that's it. But let's say somebody comes in and, because you have to stand on stage and you have to remain in bold, really, you got to make sure everything's out the whole time. You don't let somebody stand in back and relax, right? I mean, they've got to be in condition to stay tight the whole time. Is that true?
No, I don't really, the judges don't look to the sides. You know what I mean? You stay in a certain position. You don't flex. You don't stay uptight because that's energy and glucose or whatever, your carbs that you're burning out on the side. Right. They're not even looking at you.
Yeah, you're right.
Keep the belly in, stay, in a semi-relax, or you can put your hands on your hip and stuff like that, but keep the belly in.
That's a good point.
Belly in.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Tony Corby is here. He couldn't wait for this. What's up, Michael and Kenny? Tony, how are you? And Tony, congratulations. congratulations on your new golfing academy. I think it's
Yes,
at
congrats.
the only game in town in North Haven. Lance Stranahan wants to meet up with you and get some tips. So Ken, so segueing away from that, Frank Zane, when he was training for the 80 Olympia, I still think old school. I still wear Chuck Taylors. You know, I couldn't get big, so I go with the guys who are 180. You know, there was a time when you could be 6 feet, 186, and actually pull a first here and there. You know, and then you jump in the pool. I mean, I remember those days. But Zane said what he did, he was prepared. One of the biggest parts of his preparation for that 80 Olympia, he had another house down in Palm Springs. He said it was really hot outside, and what he would do is he'd stand outside when the sun was. It was like 4 p.m. The sun was at the proper. He had all these, all these requirements, which I thought was interesting. But he would stand in his relaxed, his relaxed poses. He'd stand, tight. In other words, focused. You're in front of the judges. 15 minutes facing the sun, front, side, back, and the other side. That's what he would do. And he got to the point where it was part of conditioning, but then it was easy to hold his poses. I mean, you don't suggest anything like that, do you?
No way. No.
I don't know how the hell anybody could do that.
Yeah, well, it's different nowadays because, they work your ass off on stage.
Oh, yeah.
They work you. They work you. So you can't be blowing energy unnecessarily on stage like that. Or you know what I mean? And holding or whatever. You hit your pose, you hold, depending on the pose, they'll generally make you hold it for about maybe 7 to 10 seconds, I guess, depending.
Hey, Ken, those are really good points because that's counterintuitive to what I always thought, what I did. But of course, listen, if you and I could leverage what we know now from when we competed back in the day, you could have won the big one or whatever, because you don't have all that info. Stephen Ross says, great info, guys. Thanks for the video broadcast. Steve, thanks for always being here. And we got Kenny here, and he's the best, so it's fantastic. What else did I want to ask you? Oh, so, there's a lot of other elements. How about posing? You hear this a lot, posing in between sets to flush the muscle with blood. And I know you're not really training and diet, but that is kind of a, kind of relative.
Yeah, see, here's the thing with me. I don't do anything. I don't know anything about that stuff anymore. I don't care about the blood or anything like that. I only care about how well somebody poses. So I always like posing in between sets because the more times you hit a shot casually, like outside of a practice session, the more it becomes, part of your wiring.
Right.
Okay. So if you're doing a set and a flies or whatever, and you want to do a side chest or you want to do a most muscular, all that stuff, the more you hit it on a casual basis, as long as you're hitting it correctly, you're going to do that in your sleep, and it's going to be effortless when you do it on stage.
I know your first guy who you turned pro was Evan Centopani, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Big Evan. I was training with Evan.
06 or something like that, 07.
Yeah, he told me that if you're curling a dumbbell, it's almost good where a good thing to think about is almost like you're posing with the weights. And that was just kind of a training thing. And that was just a little segue.
Yeah.
What would you say the extra for what you do, for what you provide to a person? And some of these people, they earn a living from bodybuilding because you have the best of the best. And how many percent do you think a highly, highly trained elite athlete, and you've trained Olympians, you've worked with Olympians, the best in the best ever. What's that?
We won an Olympia.
Oh, no, I know that. No, listen, I'm happy you're here, man. I don't feel like I'm worthy. No, I mean it. No, really. You've got to get that out there. Dude, you've got to give yourself credit because it's so hard. It's so competitive. There's so many people, to discern, to carve a niche, and you're like the person. Because you know what? We're all sacks of cells on this planet. And what differentiates one from another is how you direct your brain chemistry. And you direct your brain chemistry in a way where you're able to implement some things that help truly lift people who are already at a very high level. You know how fucking hard that is? And I'm trying not to swear as much because YouTube will kick you off if you swear a lot now. I learned that. It's bad. It's hard to know. So what percentage, let's say you get a guy like, you've worked with David Henry, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's just an example. What percentage do you add to his, total package. Let's say he comes in, he's 95%. Can you get him to 100 with posing?
That's what I'm all about, bro.
Right there.
That's what I'm all about. My main thing is, see, here's the thing. And I hate to say it, but I kind of pride myself on this, okay? Most athletes will come in less than 100% on their presentation.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They short sell themselves a lot.
No kidding.
That's where I
Kenny, will you address that with somebody and they come in, they're kind of
course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Because part of being what I do is being completely honest to them and saying, no matter how good or what they've won or whatever, just because you win something doesn't mean you can't get better.
Right.
Okay. And I'm a big Tiger Woods fan.
Yes.
That man has been #1 golfer in the world for 10 years in a row, #1 in the planet, and still looked to get better and had his coaches for better putting, better swinging, better mind therapy.
Kenny, hold on one second. Hey, Tony Corby, do you agree with Kenny that Tiger Woods was the most elite ever? And Lance, what do you think about that? Lance Stranahan, good friend, his father was a contemporary of Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and pro ball.
But here's my point, though.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Even though he was #1, he still looked to get better.
Right.
Okay. That's my point. So you got people who win. It doesn't mean that you can't improve on what you're doing. And that's where I come in. I consider myself like the last 10 to 15% of what people bring to stage for me to bring them to 100%.
That could mean, listen, if you're making money, that could mean tens of thousands of dollars right there.
That could be a Mr. Olympia title. That could be an
Okay, Ken, isn't it true when you have the top 6 in the Olympia, let's say, really any of them can win, and the difference between each, for the most part, is that percentage that you're talking about, right? It's
absolutely
tiny percentage points.
Well, that's the thing. See, and look, you're talking about the best in the world, and they're all competing. And as far as I'm concerned, 1 inch could equal an extra 5 to 10 pounds of angle of this or that. Just like when you have the Olympics and you got the 100-yard dash, a gold medal could be the difference of 1/100th, 1,000th of a second.
Ken, I might have lost you. When you're saying that, are you talking about creating an illusion?
No, well, no, not really. No, it's creating their body by, giving them an angle that they've never brought before. It's not a matter of illusion. I mean, all of bodybuilding is an illusion. I mean, let's face it, from the beginner to the Olympia stage, it's all illusion. The lights create something. I mean, how many times have you seen a guy who walks on the street, a competitor in the hallway, and you're like, oh, okay, looks decent. But then he gets under the lights and it's like, what? Where'd that come from? You gotta
hear this one quick story. An old AAU champ, Pat Nevey, he won his class in America. Pat, and I interviewed him a while back, and he was talking about Frank Zane. He said, I saw Zane in the gym, not impressed. I saw Zane give a seminar, not impressed. I could beat him. Saw him in the locker room. Listen, my sister could beat him. The whole thing. Went to the Olympia, and this is your department. He's sitting in the audience, and he even went backstage. He was friends with Boyarko, helping Boyarko, and he saw Zane in the shadows. He's nothing. He came out underneath, and he positioned himself in the light and the whole thing. He said, I could never beat him. And what Zane told him that story, and Zane said, listen, it's all about the things you're talking about. And he said, I only have to beat you on one day. And it's all these things that I put together right there on stage, and that's how it's done. And that's kind of what you do. And all these top level people, they all basically have coaches, don't they? As good as they are.
Yeah. Everybody, mostly at that level, they all have their coaches and stuff,
They need outward eyes looking at them because they don't see what you see, perhaps.
Well, I think as a competitor, nobody does. You know what I mean? I mean, I used to look at myself when I was competing and be down on myself saying, I don't look good enough. I'm not where I need to be or blah, or what have you. You know what I mean? because as a competitor, we're our own worst enemies when it comes.
Yeah.
We over critique ourselves, and so to have the outside eye is definitely a huge thing to have. And then if you have a trained eye and somebody with experience and with wins and stats or whatever behind them, that is a big confidence booster for the competitor as far as telling them what the real deal is.
John, you remember John Gershon Benaroch? He's out in California acting now. He says,
Johnny, what's up, kid?
Big dog Kenny in the house. John, you won like your first damn show. It took me 8 shows to get a trophy. These damn kids don't know. They don't know how hard it was back in the day.
Yeah,
my first show, hey Ken, my first show was 1979, Mike Cat show. There was no music. You just went out and you hope people clap. And for me, they didn't. So, it was hard, but you come back for more. So other things, other considerations. So you not only help them bring their muscle out and look their best and find the right poses, you put routines together too, correct?
Not as much as I used to,
Not as much.
Because to me, I'm of the mindset where it's all about the prejudging and mandatories. That's where it's won and lost.
Really?
That's where I want to put my people. I mean, we'll come up with something professional looking and cool looking. You know what I mean? I'm always going to have that part because it, in a certain way that if you do something cool and something really professional, whatever, it's going to have you remembered. It's going to make you remembered.
Right.
Okay. So when people see you at another show or whatever, if you caught their eye on a routine, they're going to remember the face. They're going to remember the physique because you caught their eye on something that was cool and entertaining.
You obviously offer to your client, I don't even know if you call them clients, friends, contemporaries, colleagues. You offer what you know is going to help, what is the greatest lack in what they suffer and what's going to help them do their best. But what is their idea when they come to you? What is it that they think they need help with? Usually the wrong things.
Well, let's put it to you this way. When I work with like my pros on and the Olympia and stuff like that, we bring them to that extra 10%. That's why they come to me.
Oh.
You understand what I'm saying? Because why else come to me? And that's why a lot of them come to me because they know that I'm going to give them that last 10% to bring them to the 100%.
Right.
Okay. If they're coming in and I can make them look 5 pounds heavier by a tweak, and that's all I'm doing with these guys. They didn't get to the Olympia level or pro level because they didn't know what they were doing. It's just that I'm adding a little extra, that extra to them.
In business, what you did, it was very smart, is very smart. You carved out an exacting niche and, right. And you're right in that space and for the most part, you don't go out. But I saw, for instance, the past 5 years, you've generated over 300 IFBB pros.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And that's just in the 5 years I've had before. But, like Evan, Guy Sister, Nino, all those guys were like in the mid 2000s.
Well, it's like NFL,
I don't remember what I've done before that.
It's like in the NFL, they didn't start recording sacks until after 1980. So, maybe you have.
Right. And it never occurred to me to keep track because it wasn't about keeping track.
No.
For me. You know what I mean?
No.
Because I wasn't doing it as a business. I only been doing this as a business for about 6 years.
Really?
Or maybe 7. Yeah, that's it.
Hey Ken, how do people? How far ahead are you booked when contest season comes? Do you have it? Because I know you have several locations. We'll talk about that. But how do you arrange that? It's got to be really hard with everybody dieting and training and traveling and.
Well, they see stuff on the social media. They'll book, anywhere between 3 to 4 months before their show just to get in. You know what I mean? So they book their appointments way early, knowing that they're going to use me at that point. But they book them because they know that if they don't, chances are they can't get in. Unfortunately,
Now, will you work only? Right. Do you work only with a certain level or a certain elite status, or anybody who wants
first timers?
Wow,
I work with first timers all the way up to Olympia, man, and I treat them all the same.
I've always noticed. Of course, no, I know that I've seen you say that. I know you. Listen, you're a man of quality. You won't last in an industry ever. Let's say you have poor character and you're pulling things on people and you're cutting things short and you're not going the distance. If you're lucky, you could last maybe 5 years in a certain area or something. Then people are going to know your names. You've been doing this for decades. So obviously, man of value, high caliber, real. You give more than you get. And some people don't understand that math and business.
Well,
What's that?
That's passion, bro.
Oh, absolutely. You give more than you get because if you do it in enough numbers, you're going to do fine, as you do and as you know.
That's why I never cared about money.
No, you can't. You can't. No, it's going to come anyhow because of what you're doing, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at it this way. From 1983 to like just maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I've been working with everybody free.
Wow.
I never charged a dime to anybody because I didn't do it as a business. I do it to help people.
I'm going to tell you now that you charge, I bet you people value it even more.
I don't know. I mean, I never really looked at it that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, the thing is, they know that I'm giving all of me.
Right.
So they're going to value it whether they pay me or not. It's just that I needed to make a living, and it was working where I was putting in so many hours doing it that somebody actually suggested to me that I start charging.
Right. Right.
And I was always reluctant, but it was so many, it made sense. So I said, all right, let me give it a shot because I'm not a money guy. You know what I mean? I'm very off.
No, I understand. It's to my disgust often, but Martin Luther King said it. It's wonderful to do good things, but without money, it's awfully hard. So we need it. Let me ask you this. Every so often, I've seen this historically, someone will come out on stage, and maybe you could touch upon this, and they choose a song that's, well, it's terrible. It's relevant to them, but it's not relevant to anybody else. Does that put them at a disadvantage if you know what I mean? I mean, what do you say about music or the choice and whatnot?
Okay, my choice about the music is this. You can't bore people, and a lot of people come in and they'll do this classical blah blah blah, and I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but the problem is that if unless you're like superior and you got this mind-blowing music and everybody, you've got this superior physique, it's going to be hard to remember. For me, so many people do the classic, orchestratic type of whatever stuff, and it all kind of like becomes one, and everybody does it, and it's nice, but boring to me.
Right.
My main thing is do songs that everybody knows, do songs that everybody likes. The classic rock you can never go wrong with a good, strong classic rock that everybody knows, everybody loves. Rock out to it. The people love it. The judges love it because they're of the age group for those songs too. And you come across remembered.
Yes.
You come to a nice classical song, it's like nice, but nobody's going to remember it. You know what I mean? So in order to really get most out of the people, because you're entertaining them.
Yes, yes.
Those classical songs, after a while, become white noise, man.
Yeah, people, it's hard to get them to open their wallet, and they're paying $50 to be there. So, never be boring. It's a business tenet. There was a guy many years ago, and he wasn't very good, but he got the most applause because his music was every 8 seconds, it was applause. That was his tape. So you know what I'm saying?
Pretty cool.
That was actually the guy. It was an interesting story. He came here. He escaped like communist Czechoslovakia. He crawled under barbed wire and he had no place to live. And he came to us. We helped him compete. And he comes up with this. I'm like, you're gonna do fine in America, with that ingenuity. Cool. A little bit more here, Ken. Music. Let's see. So let me ask you this. Do you think, as it stands right now in any type of competition, should they truly weigh, or do they weigh posing in the points process? They don't.
No, they shouldn't,
And they should not.
No.
Okay.
No, because, everybody has different takes, and it's like looking at a piece of art. And one person could see a piece of art and say, oh my God, what a masterpiece. That's unbelievable. I've never seen it. And then somebody else could look at that same piece of art and say, it's all right. I don't get it.
Very good point.
So No, I think, keeping it mandatory, getting the direct comparisons, that's where it's at. Have fun with the routine and, again, keep people entertained and stuff,
Here's another very interesting and I think important point. Lee Myrano's here, by the way. Big Lee, of course.
Lee. Hey, brother.
Let me ask you this. As far as trunk, torso length, leg length, stature, body type, what do you do about, do you address the cut of their trunks or posing suit? You don't. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference, you don't think?
No. These judges, look, the thing is, these judges, they know what they want to see. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's going to really do anything that's going to make anything change or anything. The judges are looking at the physique. They're professional judges. They know what to look for. Throw in a pair of trunks, that are going to, fit professionally and look decent, and it's not really that big of a deal.
I love all bodybuilding. I've been around for decades. And I think bodybuilding, when we started, is different than bodybuilding now. They're both called bodybuilding, but they're different. So we have things like, and help me understand because I don't. And but you got guys in the relaxed pose. Why are they so far out like this now? What do you think of that? And what do you?
No, I don't like it. Bodybuilding is about structure and aesthetics. Okay. Right. And again, just because they're doing it, I don't know why they're doing it. Whatever. But when you have somebody that shows perfect structure and a front relaxed, back relaxed, and their arms are flaring out there, I don't know why they're doing that. I don't really care. To me, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look, aesthetically and structurally pleasing.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean? The bottom line is the body's going to look the best in its natural state.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's nothing natural about throwing your arms up at a, parallel to the floor.
Yeah.
And it actually takes away from body parts, man. Your body parts look best when your body is in anatomical correct form.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
this is a training statement, but I still think it's relevant. When I was training with Evan and we're going over points and whatnot, and he said, you want to train with the best posture because that's how the body works. Why would you get into all these contortions? Because you're trying to cultivate the way the body structure and function works. And I guess you could say the same thing biomechanically for posing also. And how about the side chest where, it used to be truly from the side. Now it's kind of a side, like in pumping iron when Franco's throwing the side chest. And I was like, hey, Franco, it's not a side front pose. I mean, right. Is that just how it's judged now?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, it pretty much is. So because don't forget now, like, again, the side chest directly 90 degrees. Okay. It's a cool look, but the problem is that it doesn't really show the dimension of the physique.
Yes.
Because you got another side of that body that's waiting to be seen.
Right.
And a lot of, to bring it over and to give a little bit of a shift, in an angled direction to have the upper pec climb up over the collarbone, that's a really cool thing for bodybuilding. Yeah. So the side chest to me has evolved tremendously. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of poses. I mean,
because even back in the day, Robbie Robinson would kind of twist. He had those really good intercostals, and he'd show all that along with it. So
sure, but he looked flat as a board.
No, it's true. Yeah, he would come in flat for the big ones.
Right. So I mean, he's hitting an ab shot with a little side chest sprinkled on top.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I like the big, strong, powerful, massive shots of the side chest.
You rather show the most.
It adds to that.
Show the most muscle that you can.
That's what it's all about, brother. And looking structurally perfect in the pose.
Who is your? I had Dan Solomon on here, and as you know, the Olympia is being held in the middle of December, Hard Rock in Vegas, which sounds pretty cool. And he said potentially you'll have 4 Olympias there, Olympia winners: Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, potentially. I guess he's getting past that legal thing he had. Heath is coming back, and finally the 4th is Brandon Curry. Looking at those 4, who do you like? Hard to say.
Who's the 4? Who's the 4?
Well, and he also, I'll throw in. He also said Kai Green is possibly coming back, but for sure, Phil Heath, Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, and the current Olympia Brendan Curry.
Yeah,
so out of
that's hard
four.
to say. I mean, it's really hard to say because, you know, I don't know what conditioning. I didn't know. I thought Dexter retired.
Yeah.
After the Arnold, I don't know, but it's really hard to say because they all bring their own, you know, their own different physiques.
Right.
You know, short. You know, so and the conditioning or whatever. So I'm gonna sit on the fence on that one and not.
That's okay. I figured that. Hey,
But here's the
so,
thing, Mike. Here's the thing that I really want to express. You know, when we were talking about the pros or people, just people in general, I don't even care what level they are, beginner or Olympian. The fact of the matter is that you want to bring you don't want to shortchange yourself at any level when you could be bringing more to stage.
Yes.
That's the thing that I think that I'm mostly all about, like I said before. And I really wanted to emphasize that because, you know, there are times where I'm sitting in the audience watching, you know, shows. Doesn't matter what show. I don't care if it's Mr. Main Street to Mr. Olympia. I don't care. When I'm watching people and I see themselves when I see them shortchange themselves, knowing that they could give more. Okay, that's what kind of gets me a little bit. You know what I mean? Because, you know, being a competitor, you were a competitor, you work so hard, you spend so much money, you spend so much time, so much effort, mentally and physically, and to leave yourself short of showing your full potential on stage, that's the thing that is I try to eliminate for everybody. Bring everybody to their full potential, no matter what level they are. Add those 5 extra pounds, add those 10 extra pounds with a little tweak here and there that I'm able to see. And then when I show them to the people, when I'm working with them, whether it's online or in person, and have them light up because they see it. That's, you know, I don't get any greater satisfaction than that because, you know, as many wins as I was able to be associated with, and I was saying before that, you know, the win is something that's out of your hands. You have no control. You're not scoring points. You're not playing defense. You're not playing offense. You're not going against the clock. You're going against people who, you know, who are doing their own thing and it's judged. So to me, when my people pose themselves to the full potential that I want to bring them to, okay, and that's another thing I'm starting a thing called full potential posing.
Yes.
As part of the dead center. So
right. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So I'm working on that now. But my point was I didn't want you to try to sell it, but it just popped up in my head.
Oh no, it's okay.
But when my people pose to their full potential that I brought them to, that's the most satisfying thing to me. Because of the fact there's no control on how you know winning or not, and it's up to the judges. That makes the actual winning, you know, icing on the cake for me, an extra.
Right.
You know, thankfully I have a lot of extras and a lot of gravy, icing on the cakes.
Yes.
But that's because I put these people in position to win, to give them the best chance of winning.
Yes.
Because they're showing stuff that maybe other people aren't going to show.
Ken,
go ahead.
You work with people on Skype, FaceTime, Live, and that being said, what's most conducive? I won't say what's easiest because I don't like that word. Nothing should be easy. If you do it as easy, your life will be hard. That's Les Brown, as you and I both know. You take the hard way, and there's no other way. But what's the most results producing? And also, do you have your clients, you know, obviously live and die by the photos they take every week? Do you have them do that?
Well, I take photos when I work with them.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So when I put them in a position and they're doing this, I'll take a picture of that, and then I'll have them do a picture of this, and I send them so they could see the differences.
Right. And they see it.
It's instant, right? So this way they know what we're doing is making them look better. Instead of me just saying it, I show them.
Right.
They can see it. It's like the mirror. You know what I mean? So, you know, but I mean, I work with people all over the world. So, you know, I don't really know about certain percentages, but I will say this. Last year, I think I had like 86 pro card winners.
Wow.
Right? 88% of the 86 were via Skype or FaceTime or WhatsApp or whatever.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, because I work with, again, people all over the world. So sometimes they'll fly in to see me, or I'll work with somebody who's in the area through my other locations. But yeah, 88% of my 86 pro cards last year were all online.
Man, I'm not going to say I'm proud of you. I don't like that because then I sound like your dad. But
No, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No, you know what I mean. I hold you in high regard. Here's a question. They're bringing women's bodybuilding back. Regular bodybuilding, according to Dan. And so, do you take them through the paces different than a man?
No.
Or is it exact? They're trying to show the same things.
Everybody's the same. The thing is again, to bring the full potential of every single competitor I work with, whether it's a woman.
No, I'm giving, but no, what I'm saying is I think the women don't do all the same poses the men do. Is that still true? Because they don't do
they do all the same poses except for the most muscular.
Oh, okay, so everything else is the same. Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought it was there was less of that. Okay, so you're gonna get some of it, but you work with the fitness, the figure, the bikini, all the other ones.
Yeah, I work with everybody.
Everybody.
From bikini all the way to bodybuilding.
Wow. I've got some names here for you. We don't have to finish up if you have anything else to say, but I have.
No, I'm cool, man. I love this. I'm having fun.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. Listen, try to have enjoyable days. Work does not have to be torture. Like as far as what you do every day. That's most people. They hate what they do, and you see a lot of people training and they're unhappy and whatnot. I'm like, man, you should be happy. Okay, so all these people and individuals and situations involve, physique and the art of physique and display, and if you want to call it posing, the whole thing. They all pertain to you. We already mentioned Joe Weider was the master among people for a long time. He just had a knack of, like, even these guys who thought they knew themselves really well, he knew how to really have their bodies explode. What are your impressions of Joe Weider? Because you grew up with him like I did.
Well, Joe Weider was, every single book that I bought was had his name on it. The Joe Weider supplements, the Joe Weider, Muscle and Fitness, Flex, everything was, the books that I used to buy at the bookstore. That was all Joe Weider. So, I really, I guess he started it all. So how can you not,
Yeah, you've kind of replaced him, actually. I mean, really, you're the guy that they speak of in those tones. Hey, if anything, Kenny could really make a big difference. And okay, so there's some guys who, there's probably a handful. Like Lee Labrada, Muhammad Makawi, Ed Corney, Russ Testo. I mean, who jumps to mind? Melvin Anthony, Vince Taylor. They have these. You remember what they did. Like you were saying earlier, don't be boring. Bring something where people maybe they'll remember some crazy song or something you did, or you did a split or something. So we'll name a few people. So what did you? I saw this act. I thought it was one of the best. Muhammad Makawi. What did you think of him?
He was definitely my hero, literally my hero when I was a kid.
Really.
The Pharaoh of physique, they would call him sometimes, and when he came out the night of champions sitting on the camel.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know what I mean? He was a little badass. I mean, and I saw him on Worldwide Sports on ABC back in the day when they used to cover bodybuilding back then. Yeah, it was
Wayne.
I loved him.
Is the posing different for someone of smaller stature like him versus someone like maybe Lou Ferrigno? Do you think the smaller guys can do more?
No.
Pretty much the same?
No, nobody's limited.
They shouldn't be.
Because of the size, no way. They could do the same thing. It's just a matter of doing it.
To segue for a second, speaking of that, do you work with wheelchair athletes?
I've never have, but I'm sure I can. I mean, I could do anything.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because they don't have lower bodies, so I've never seen them in a show, so I wouldn't know what that would incorporate. I interviewed a guy named Jack Neary. He was Weider's top writer back in the 70s. He had a lot of cool. I used to like his writing, and he used to like to do articles, not training articles, human interest articles. So he'd get into the guy's personalities. And he said the greatest ovation he ever saw at any event, not just bodybuilding, any event, was at the 76 Olympia. And this is my next question, number 3. 76 Olympia, the ovation that was given for Ed Corney and his physique display that night. Do you remember him? And of course, and did he influence you at all, or what did you think of him, what he did?
Yeah, Ed Corney influenced me with some of his poses that I learned from the book Pumping Iron. You know what I mean? And the movie Pumping Iron.
Yes.
You know, yeah, he was. You know, I mean, he was just. There's really no other word. I mean, he was just amazing. You know, watching him smooth as silk. You know, that those really, you know, that the looks of his face. You know, very. You know, just total badass out there.
Kenny, you can watch somebody, and I'm sure there's a lot of them at contests that you haven't worked with. These are from all over the place. But you can tell, I'm just kind of suggesting this, it's probably true. You can tell right away if they understand their physique right away, can't you? The way they're presenting themselves.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, does it happen sometimes where somebody really has it down, or for most people, do you look at them and say, hey, I could help them with that, or they could do that a little better? I can help with everything. Everybody.
I don't care what level or how well they pose. There's always room for some type of improvement to make them that much better. Again, back to my Tiger Woods example, okay? #1 in the world, and he could still be better based on it from his own brain, not from somebody else telling him.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
You can get from people who come in with a little bit of a higher percentage of bringing in, you know, their 100%. But based on what I see, there's always room for more. And it really is. It's so true, bro. You know what I mean?
You got to drop, and some of these guys, nobody in particular, but I imagine sometimes you have to drop the ego a little bit, right? And be taught and be able to drop the dogma that you're caught on. This is the way I've always done it. And, you know, why would I change?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know,
Tim, would you ever acquire a client that you have to fire because you can't afford to waste the time and they're not either listening or working right? Does that ever happen?
No, because I'm pretty respected by everybody who I work with. You know what I mean? You know, I never had to fire anybody because they fought me, you know, because when I work with somebody, it's not me say you do. It's me say you check it out, you know, and then we discuss it. If there's some other way and they're not comfortable, then we play with it a little bit, you know, but I'll always explain why and go over. And if they can't, you know, they can't get it, then I'll say, okay, well then, you know, do it, but I'm not taking responsibility for it. But I never really had that issue.
No, you know why? I would assume it's because you attract, like attracts like. In other words, you've had a cabal of successful people, and they know people who are like them, and they were successful. So you're bringing in the same types of people. You know what I mean? So it's probably easier to work with them. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah. I mean, you know, again, like, I think when people ask me to work with them, they know basically that I'm not after working with them because of their name. They know that I'm not after publicity because I don't need it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They know that they're going to get a genuine person, you know, who genuinely cares about them doing better.
Well, and plus you're consistent across the board. Yeah. I tell Denise, you know, I like dealing with assholes. She goes, what do you mean? I go, well, no, I'd rather not. But if I know someone is an a-hole, as long as they're consistently an a-hole, I know what I'm getting, so it's okay. So it's the expectancy of a certain standard, you know, and people are only as successful as their standards, and yours are very high, and people gravitate towards that because they say, hey, this guy might be the portal of entry for me to finally get that thing I'm really kind of afraid to grab. Because people are afraid of being successful. You know that. They're afraid to, you probably have people who are afraid to say, hey, I want to win Mr. Olympia. But that's what they're thinking, and they're just afraid. That happens all the time. You know that. Yeah. Kenny, tell me, who did you learn from as far as posing? Did you learn from people? Nobody. Nobody directly. Oh no, I believe that. That's extraordinary. Like, you didn't see anybody at this show or local. Like, who was good? Like, back when we were like, you know, like holistic in like the early 80s, and you know, who was good? Who was a good poser back then that you remember? Anybody?
Yeah, I
No,
mean, there were a lot of people back then, but see, I didn't get it was all magazine stuff.
that's true.
I would study the magazines because I didn't have anything else, And back then, when we were kids and looking at the magazines, they were selling 8mm videotapes of these people.
You're right. You
In the
had to
back of
wait.
the magazine.
It took 6 weeks to get that stuff.
And I never, so it was for me studying the shit out of pictures every day, all day. When I would go to my school in high school, my magazines were inside of whatever notebook or book I was reading in high school.
Well played.
It was everything. It was my air. It was my blood. It was my food, drink, everything. So I studied and I studied and I studied. And then as I practiced for me, I was coming, okay, this does that. This does this, blah, blah, blah. And then it just accumulated. And then as I was working with people and working with myself, so everything was pretty much self-taught because back then we didn't have people teaching stuff.
Ken, this is going in a good direction. I still have other questions, but I want to ask you something. Were you a good student in school?
No.
Even though I have a lot of degrees and all that, I struggled. Nothing came easy. And I think that's good because if it's not coming easy, you're in the right place. You don't want to do what's easy. But was it a matter of, you just weren't because you're a smart guy. We already know that. But when I say if you weren't a good student, was it because you were not interested in the subject matter and you'd rather read about posing? Is that what it was?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, because, when back in the day, like I was, changing directions in my personal life a little bit. And I decided to go to massage therapy school when I was like 40 years old or something like that. Okay. And, I was like 1 or 2 in the whole class graduating from that class.
Wow.
Because my interest was learning to do it.
Right. You were interested. Right.
Yeah. So back in high school and a couple years in college that I didn't really think about because I was competing and, so yeah. So I was capable. I just chose not to do it.
It's crossed my mind. Gordon Falsetti, Gordon, of course, our good friend and great trainer. He's only 40, but even when he started really young as a teenager, he had to go by the mat. He learned from Arnold's encyclopedia. Didn't have all this stuff on the internet, push a button, Instagram famous and all that. Are you familiar with Ralph Correa? One of the best massage therapists. He won Mr. Connecticut in the 70s.
I was friends with Ralph. And
his son Dean is a trainer. But this as an aside, great. As massage therapists go, when I was in practice, listen, no offense to you because, obviously not, but he was the only massage therapist I hired who was clinical and he took a methodical approach to treating people. In other words, just like you take a methodical approach to teaching people, and understanding how everything works. And it really comes back to that. And that's probably another reason why you have so much success. And here's another guy. I competed in the Teenage Mr. America. And in fact, Bob Ciccarillo came in 3rd in my class. I came in like 10th. But Ciccarillo, I was 17. Ciccarillo was 15. He looked like he was 40. But it's funny. Like Evan was saying one day, I says, Evan, so what's the deal? How did this all happen? He says, Mike, listen, I've been this size since I was 20 or around there. Right away, and you know this, you're around the best in the world. Right away whether you have it or not. To go, your genetic, and I don't like to use the word genetics because too many times people use it as a scapegoat. You know what I mean? And Cutler said the same thing. By the time I was 20, 21, and then after that, it's refining, getting harder, getting better shape, the whole thing, more mature. But going back to, so Ciccarillo, he just had it. He was a natural teenage America up in Utica, New York, and a guy named. His posing routine came in 4th in the men's. You know this guy. I'm going to ask you about him. His posing routine was so disruptive to what everyone was doing that a guy who competed that day in Old Mr. Universe, Harcourt Skinner, who was friends with Arnold, who was running the Olympia at that time with Lorimer, now it's the Arnold, but in Columbus, they heard about him. They flew him out to Columbus, and they had him guest pose at the Olympia 4 times, 4 years in a row. And this is like an Russ.
Oh, Russ Tester, yeah.
Yeah, you ever see him pose? Or you ever?
Yeah, he was very, very innovative, man. I was fortunate enough to see him twice back when in
Really?
his prime, you know. And he, you know, when he did that whole Michael Jackson thing in his routine with the hat
Really amazing.
and then he would just bang out poses like literally like a half a second, bam, 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 and man, that was really cool to watch. He was
That's like you said earlier. You get a person to the point where they're like hitting them in their sleep, and it's just like, you know, in their own physical congruency. He still does it, by the way. I think he's 62 or 63.
But here's the thing about Russ Testo and other things that I've seen. Russ Testo wasn't dancing on stage. There was no dancing. It was all posing.
Yes.
You know, there was just no dancing. It was real bodybuilding in a entertaining, but yet still in a bodybuilding format.
Kenny, you what's the word? You reveal yourself here with a little bit of an acerbic tone, meaning you don't like these guys to just go out there and dance.
No, man, it's not bodybuilding.
It's not. Why do they do that? What do they? Is that's
I don't know. I mean, look, it's something different.
Yes.
But I'm very old school, hardcore.
Me too. Right.
You know, and I want to see guys hitting shots on stage. Now, in the case of Russ Testo, he was doing it in a very entertaining way, but it was still bodybuilding. He wasn't dancing and swinging hips and all that other shit. It was bodybuilding done in a very, you know, like I said, bodybuilding way, entertaining as hell, making me want to see more when he was done.
Yes. Perfect. It's very good marketing sense. One of the books I wrote, one of the chapters says nothing sucks. And what I mean by that is I'm not ripping on these guys. I never do that. Because if somebody does something I can't do, you know, I was a good local guy. I know that. I'm not, you know, I'm not cut out to be a top champion. But I enjoy this. I enjoy talking to you. I get a lot out of it. And even still, when I see these guys do what they do, I don't disparage them, even though I don't agree, because I can't do what they do. And the guy, you understand that. The guy who won the Ferrigno Legacy 3 years ago, he was tremendous. But what did he do in his routine? He twerked. He actually twerked. And, you know, what the hell? I mean, you know, hey, man, he was probably the only 240-pound muscular guy doing that on the planet. But you got to ask yourself, there's a disconnect, because what are you trying to transmit to the audience?
And the thing is, like, look, every once in a while, like, you know, you throw something in there that's kind of cool and fun. Yeah, absolutely. Because, again, it breaks it up. It gives it personality. It gives it flavor.
Right.
But when the whole thing is done, you know, I mean, I've seen routines where maybe 1 or 2 or 3 poses were hit and held for like a half second, you know?
I want to mention that. Why do these guys not close the deal? They don't hold it, and they got the muscle, but they kind of do this thing where they just tense it a little and go to the next one. What is that? They're not mindful, or?
Yeah, you know, again, everybody has their own way, and it's not like I'm, you know, beating up on anybody or anything. It's just that's what I like. I like you a little bit more hardcore. Now, if somebody hits the pose and hold for half second, you know, maybe that's how they feel like they're going to display themselves better or whatever. But
right,
you know, like I said, I'm not like you. I don't disparage anything. I just I like to see.
I'm interested in finding out why people do what they do and what they're all about. And you know, listen, I've already learned a lot of things tonight with you. Who today would you say really, you know, name 3 guys, since the women's bodybuilding hasn't really come back yet. Who are three guys, top guys, who really nail it the best out there right now, in your opinion, whether you worked with them or not?
Yeah.
By the way, thanks everybody for being here. You can join this anytime. It's going to be on the YouTube. It's going to be on Kenny's stream. I put it on 8 other pages, so you can visit this and learn and ingratiate yourself with knowledge, which will invariably put you forward, maybe an inch, maybe a foot, maybe a mile, maybe 1%, 0.5%, 10%. You're only going to be better. You're not going to be worse. Who do you think, Ken?
Okay. I would say, you know, that's really good, because see, the thing is, I don't really pay attention. I don't really see, because I don't really go to shows, you know, because they're all over the place. I'm so like caught in my own little thing. But, you know, Dexter is, you know, right there. Somebody who shows Dave Henry still. Sean Clarita is pretty good. I work with Sean too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to figure out. Brandon's not bad. Curry. Yeah, like those guys are pretty good. You know,
maybe not just entertainment value, but showing their
no, I'm talking about mandatories.
Right, and showing what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see the routines or anything. I'm talking strictly mandatories.
Right. No, I understand.
You know what I mean? Technically.
Right.
Yeah, those guys are really good. Sergio's good too. Sergio's coming a long way.
Oh, Junior. Okay. Hey, did you see the movie Bigger?
I did not.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's actually good.
Oh, really? Yeah, cool.
They got Colum. He plays Arnold, and he goes against Sergio. They reenact the '70 Olympia. And you know, Sergio's son looks just like Sergio's. It's kind of surreal. You know, it's a good thing if you have 2 hours.
Okay.
What's that?
Yeah. So yeah, Sergio's good. Sergio's put on a really great routine at the Arnold, man. Let me tell you something.
Really?
Yeah, he took a picture that was, and I even told him, you know, I had to reach out to him and say, look, that was the most epic poses, epic pictures. He had a picture where it was like reaching up to heaven, you know what I mean? On the floor, reaching up, and Arnold at the base of the stage taking a screenshot of it.
Wow, that's cool.
It was, oh my God. It stopped me in my tracks. But
were you there? Were you there for the show? You're there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I have people in the Arnold. I'm like, you know, working.
Is that hey Kim, when you work with the people going, do you often attend their shows also? Is that part of it, or is that just something you want to follow up with on your own?
On my national shows, I attend the national shows, all of them.
You do?
Most of them. I don't go to the USA or anything, but when I work with my national competitors and they're trying to get that pro card, you better damn believe I'm going to be there to work with them all the way up until the stage.
Are you right in the audience and you're yelling to them from the audience?
I don't like to do that much. They don't need it. They're pretty much ready to go. If I need something, done, I'll probably, let them know.
Right.
But they're ready to go. But the thing is that when I make sure that I'm there, because the goal is, they want to get their program. I want to make sure I'm there to help them do that. So I go to the national shows. The pro shows like the Olympia and the Arnold, I always go because I have a lot, quite a few people in there, and I want to make sure that they're good to go as well. And so I see them in the rooms.
I asked you this question off camera. I'm going to ask it a little differently. And I'm going to relate it to some of the top trainers I've talked to. The trainers who work with like elite athletes, they tell me that the women are stronger, relatively speaking, and that might, they have a higher pain threshold. That might be because of birthing reasons and hormones, and and also they're much more fastidious in doing exercises correctly over time. Meaning they'll train them, they'll see them a year later. They're still very exacting in what they do. In other words, they follow it, they listen to it. Whereas the men get a little sloppy. So there's a difference. But you don't see a difference in working with the men or the women. You don't.
Not at all. I don't let that happen. You know what I mean? If I let them know that. I mean, I let them know right off the bat that they got to do what they got to do to look the way they want to look, so can they achieve their goal. And I don't, and we're all on the same level. And I let them know that, it's a different thing for me because I let them know, look, you don't do this, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Right.
And all this stuff you're putting in together, you're doing it and you need to show it. So I let them know the value of not screwing up and letting, kicking back. You got to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And that's that. You know what I mean? Just like any prep coach will say, listen, you got to eat the way I'm telling you to do, or you're not going to look the way you want to look to achieve your goal.
Ken, do you give your clients homework? In other words, practice these maneuvers until next time. And how many times, what's the average course? You get somebody, is it 12 weeks before a show and you meet them once a week, or is it once for some people?
No, normally I think it depends on the level of what they are. They'll start out if they're not that, experienced. We start out a little bit further out because they need time to, put the time into practice. And, if it's like a pro show, they'll work with me. They'll start with me 6 to 8 weeks out. And again, it depends what on what they want to achieve. Some people feel better working with me once a week.
Here's one of those esoteric questions. How much can presentation or nailing your mandatories make up for poor genetics?
It means everything. I mean, you have to, it makes up the posing for presentation to a poor genetics. It can bring the body to a different level. It brings the genetics to a different level. If I have somebody who has, say a narrow clavicle width, okay, and, they're hitting a bicep shot and they're not going to be very wide, or they're not going to be very wide on the side chest, whatever, then you angle them in a specific way to lengthen the width of the body illusionally. You know what I mean? Because again, everything's illusional. Okay. If you have somebody that doesn't have a wide taper in their front relaxed, you bring it out to the best of your ability, and I tinkle with it. You have to play with it. But if you don't have good genetics, then you don't have good genetics. I'm not going to say that I can make you look like somebody who has good genetics. Right. I'll make it look at its very best and then some.
Right.
But genetics are genetics, man. You gotta roll with it. I mean, I'll make it look better. There's no doubt, but posing will help bad genetics. Great genetics.
Do you address breathing at all when they're posing?
Yeah, especially like in my figure competitors. You know what I mean? In my figure competitors, they're standing there. They can be standing there in the front lat spread, in the front relaxed for a while.
Right.
So short breaths in the chest. You want to keep the stomach from going in, and try to keep all the short breaths in the chest area.
Speaking of breathing, this may or may not be relevant. What about the protruding guts that we see here and there? Do you address those at all, or just do the best you can with that? Or
of course I do. Yeah, I mean, if somebody has a protruding gut, I'll work with it and stay on them like white on rice to keep it in as much as they can.
Right.
Are
they starting to mark down on that at all, or?
Yeah, they're all over that now.
They're trying.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job of it, I would say.
Frank Zane says that they've got to start requiring that a vacuum pose is done. Do you see that happening?
No.
Not with the Olympia.
What?
Not with the Olympia.
Not with anything.
No,
because I mean that it's very difficult for a lot of people to pull in a vacuum, even if they don't have distended stuff.
I had Tony Pearson on here last week, and I think you were on there. I think you visited for a second. But he threw us a vacuum at 63, and he said, he was talking about Zane was the best, and it was, I was even talking to Robert Nylon, the famous photographer from Australia, and Zane would take a 25-pound dumbbell and do 40 reps, 10 sets a day, day after day. He did things that you wouldn't necessarily advise, but he had the best vacuum ever. Menser had one, John Defendis. It's a different era. It's different training. You don't see people doing pullovers anymore for the most part.
Yeah, I don't really know, but
No, I know that. I know you're not on the training end, but so yeah, you don't see that being required. Hey, Kenny, have you worked with Sadiq?
Yeah.
I love Sadiq. What a good guy. What a nice guy. Now he's a physique competitor, correct?
Yeah. Well, he was, and then he went to Classic, but we're working towards something else now.
Okay. How does Classic? How do the mandatories in Classic differ from standard bodybuilding? Are they different poses or less?
Well, the same poses. It's the same type of poses. They only do like 4 of them, I think. Front double, side chest, rear double, and an ab shot.
That's it.
And then a classic shot. But man, I love classics, man. I love classics.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, and I love, they vacuum it in with the
Yes.
with the front double, and if they can't, then they twist it and they sit on the. It's really, there's so many variances of each pose. It's so awesome for me, and it allows me to be a little bit more creative as well.
Ken, do you think that's the future?
No.
What's the future?
Bodybuilding.
Hey, Ken, I like when you answer me quickly, because you know what that means? That means you get frustrated being around people who are stuck on the question because you see the answer, don't you? You already know. Well, what's the future?
It's always going to be bodybuilding, bro.
Always.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Classics awesome, but it's always going to be about the bodybuilding. That's why they have everything in the arenas with the Olympia. And
two things: board shorts competition, and again, these guys are in better shape than me. And my legs. Actually, my legs were good when I was young. Now sarcopenia, they're not. That and well, bodybuilding. I will say this right now, even with clients in my longevity clinic back in the day. Little old lady, anybody who's, whoops, I think I lost. Oh, there you go. You are building your body if you're training, if you're eating, if you're fortifying your body. So everybody's really a bodybuilder, but we're talking about. So yeah, you're right. Bodybuilding prevails for everybody, I think. But competitive wise, you think the mainstay is bodybuilding as a core. Everything's going to stay kind of centrifugal to it.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, but everybody knows that. I mean, everybody, it was the start of everything anyway.
Well, we don't listen on my pages. We don't talk about politics or drugs. Politics, you can't change anybody's mind. Drugs, I don't care. I don't care what you want to say natural. None of that matters to me. And there was a reason why I mentioned that. Jesus Christ. I got some ginkgo biloba in here. I got to find it for the memory. I got to start, I got to do something, man. You start, listen, you can age and not get old, but man, the longer you're on this planet, shit starts to wear down. I don't know why. Well, listen, here it is. People want to see, if they're going to drop, what does it cost to go to the Olympia? It's a couple hundred. It's got to be, right, to get good tickets. Yeah, they're not going to want to see guys that look like
they're not cheap.
No, they want to see people who look like they came from Mars. So yeah, the size game, I don't see that going away.
No, but right. I mean, it's always gonna be that. It's and it's one of those things where it's just the main event.
Yeah.
And everybody loves it. Everybody loves it. All the other categories love it. I love all the categories, by the way. I mean, I think they're all great. Oh
yeah. Yeah, hey, listen, Ken, you'll agree one of the hardest things you can do. Oh, I think I lost you there. Blacked out. How are you? Some people are still hanging.
I'm here. Wait a minute.
No, it's okay. I can hear you, Ken. We're almost done. I think you'll agree one of the hardest things.
I can't believe you lost me. Wait a minute. Why am I not?
We went over almost an hour and a half, man. And you're still there. You're like the unknown. You're like the unknown comic now. Do you have any parting thoughts for people, Ken? How can they get a hold of you if they wish to procure your services?
They could get a hold of me at posingbykenny.com. Very easy.
Let me type that in. Posingbykenny.com. Okay. Any other way?
No, that's really the only way. Or they posingbykenny@gmail.com if they want to send an email.
Posing
and everything, Kenny. Yeah. And then they could just but and that's really it, But the main thing about all this, Mike, is that it's about bringing your 100% of your physique to stage, presenting it 100%. You're going to bring it, but you need to present it 100% as well. You know what I mean?
So, and I do agree, and you've said that, and you live that, and embody that, and help others espouse that.
That's the bottom line to all of it, brother.
Ken, what's the goal going forward? I know you've got some things you're working on, which you're going to leave for the future, but you're working on a lot of you're progressing. You're adding depth to your services and what you're going to offer and how you're going to help people. Correct?
I'm sorry. What was that? One more time, Mike?
Oh no, I'm just saying. Going forward, you're working on some other products, some depth to what you offer to help people be even better. You're working on those things now, right, for the future?
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully, once everything time goes by and I keep working at it, and you know, I'm going to try to offer more stuff. So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to the future. Yeah.
Listen, Ken, I'll endorse you and push you. And I come across a lot of bodybuilders, and everybody, like you were saying, could use a coach, and they could use help, and they could be better. And you know, you're one of the good guys. So listen, I like I say, and I don't say this lightly. You know, people, they're quick to say, oh, America's #1, America's great, and I do agree, but I don't run it across enough people who are making it that way. I think you do, because you help a lot of people, you strengthen your sphere of influence, you cultivate goodness. Tony's saying, everybody's saying thank you now. Yes, we are leaving the building. Kenny's got to pay his electric bill. No, I'm only kidding. But Kenny, I'm glad you exist, man. I've known you for many years, and consistency over time will breed the true champion, the true captain of personal industry. And you've lasted over, you know, you're here to stay, so that's fantastic. And in an industry that has changed profoundly. Would you agree? And do you have any parting thoughts for the people?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, it's just you just keep striving forward, man. You know, and you know, you just always give 100% of yourself to whatever endeavor that you pursue. And again, just always remember, you know, it's just a matter of believing in yourself, helping people, always doing right by people, you know, and always giving your 100% of you, because they're going to give 100% of them. And as long as you have that combination, it's going to be hard to beat at anything.
Ken, thank you so much. One last question for you. Will you ever compete again?
Absolutely not, Mike. Thank you for asking.
I like that. I like that resolute tone. There's no way. Had enough of that. You already did it.
Yes,
did it well. And that's it. And you're on to better things now. Are you in Florida right now, Ken?
Yes, I am.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts?
Yeah, I'm right outside of St. Pete Beach, right across the bay from Tampa.
Oh, yeah. That's Denise's daughter's down there right now. St. Pete, Tampa, same thing. They're down there until
love it down
Sunday.
here.
Love it down there. Someday, you know, once my joints have finally had it, we'll move there. But listen, thanks so much, Kenny. I'll have you back, and I'll shoot you a message. I'll put this on your timeline and make it available to everybody. And be safe down there. Have fun, man.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, and
listen,
and always great seeing you, my friend.
Listen, you gave me your time, and that's the most valuable thing. And thanks again, Ken. You're one of the good ones. We'll see you up here soon,
you
in the land of the communist confines of Connecticut.
Looking forward to it. All right, Mike.
Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for spending your Friday night here. We'll see you on Monday with Jorge Betancourt. Then we've got big chef Andre Rush, the White House chef with probably some of the biggest arms in the world. And then we've got, who else do we have? Attorney Rick Collins, the go-to attorney for the supplement industry and people who get into these little tight spots with anabolic steroids. So always illuminating with these people. We have the best in the world here, and I thank you for your support. And I'm out. I think I got some pizza downstairs to eat right now. All right. Be well. See you soon.